Well, it all depends on who is the GM and head coach.
For sure.
And, I've talked with Ken and Anthony for the past 6-7 games that, I thought Shaduer has done enough to at least earn an opportunity to either compete or be on paper QB1 going into 2026. And you saw it in the first half, and you could see when they're on schedule and he's confident in throwing the ball where it needs to be when it's supposed to be. He can be a game changer and a quality quarterback.
This doesn't get talked about because we're talking about the here and now. There's a chance that Shedeur Sanders is the starting quarterback of this team exactly a year from now.
You are the first person I've ever heard say that. You're the first person.
You ain't gotta watch out.
Like, listen. I forgot what it feels like.
Lay that out for us. What's the process? Or what's the plan?
Well, the process is it's clearly not the guy it is now, right? And you're going to go in and you're going to have, let's say, pick 5 and pick 15, right? You need tackle, you need receiver, you need all these other things. If you think Shaduer can play and you think Shaduer is going to use the offseason to get better, then you draft another quarterback in the 3rd round and you go forward with those 2 guys. And then you sit and wait on 27.
We do a deal with him.
You got 2 quarterbacks on rookie contracts at that time.
Right. The way out of this is for Shedeur Sanders to be Brock Purdy. Comes out of nowhere and makes no money, so you can spend it other places and push money forward and get rid. That's the way out of it.
Well, it all depends on who is the GM and head coach. And, I've talked with Ken and Anthony for the past 6-7 games that, I thought Shaduer has done enough to at least earn an opportunity to either compete or be on paper QB1 going into 2026. The way out of this is for Shedeur Sanders to beat Brock Purdy. Comes out of nowhere and makes no money, and so you can spend it other places and push money forward and that's the way out of this. The way out of this is for Shedeur Sanders to beat Brock Purdy. So don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's begin. Did you hear that? Did you actually hear what just came out of that man's mouth? Because I need you to understand something right now that wasn't some random talking head on a podcast fishing for clicks. That wasn't a hot take artist trying to go viral. That was John Greco, a former Cleveland Browns offensive lineman, a guy who suited up for this organization, a guy who knows what it takes to protect a quarterback in this league, a guy who understands the inner workings of this franchise better than 99% of the people talking about it online. And he just went on record on air for everyone to hear and said that Shedeur Sanders has done enough to be QB1 going into 2026. Not backup, not developmental project, not let's see how he does in training camp. QB1, the starter, the guy, he said it and he meant it. Look, I've been following this team long enough to know when something matters. And this matters. This is the kind of moment that doesn't get enough attention because it doesn't come wrapped in a flashy ESPN graphic or a Stephen A. Smith rant. But make no mistake, what John Greco just confirmed is the most significant statement anyone has made about the future of the Cleveland Browns in years. Think about where this franchise is right now. After the Deshaun Watson disaster, after burning through $230 million guaranteed, after years of quarterback chaos and false hope and wasted draft picks, after all of that pain, a former player just looked at the current roster and said, the answer might already be here. He said the kid you drafted in the 5th round, the one everyone counted out, has shown enough to lead this team. And that's not speculation. That's not wishful thinking. That's insider confirmation from someone who knows what he's looking at. The Browns are standing at the most important crossroads in franchise history. They've got 2 first-round picks. They've got a young defense that's been balling out all season. They've got a quarterback on a rookie deal making less than $1 million a year. And they've got a former player telling them point blank that the foundation for $1 billion rebuild is already in place. So here's the question. The only question that matters. Is this organization smart enough to see it? Is Jimmy Haslam smart enough to listen? Or are they going to make the same mistake they always make, ignore the obvious, chase the shiny new thing, and burn this whole thing down again? Because I'm telling you right now, if the Browns ignore what John Greco just said, if they pass on Shedeur Sanders and reach for another quarterback in the 1st round, it will go down as the biggest mistake this franchise has ever made. And that's saying something. But don't worry, We're going to break all of it down. The money, the plan, the sabotage, the leadership, and why Shedeur Sanders is the billion-dollar bet Cleveland has to make. Let's get into it. Now let's talk about something nobody in the mainstream media wants to discuss. The money. The numbers. The financial cheat code that could turn the Cleveland Browns into a legitimate Super Bowl contender within 2 years. Because what the Browns have right now isn't just a promising young quarterback. It's a competitive advantage that only a handful of teams in NFL history have ever had. You heard John Greco reference Brock Purdy, and that comparison is everything. Think about what San Francisco did. They found a quarterback in the last round of the draft, a guy making almost nothing, and they built an absolute monster around him. Elite receivers, dominant offensive line, stacked defense. They went to the Super Bowl. They almost won it. And they did it because they weren't paying their quarterback $40 million a year. That's the blueprint. That's the cheat code. And Shedeur Sanders is Cleveland's version of it. Let me break down exactly what the Browns are working with heading into 2026. 2 first-round picks. Not 1, 2. Shedeur Sanders on a 5th-round rookie contract earning roughly $900,000 per year. That's less than what some backup quarterbacks make. That's less than what some practice squad players make. And here's the big one, $80 million in dead cap space from Deshaun Watson that finally disappears after 2026. That money is gone. That nightmare is ending. And when it does, the Browns will have more financial flexibility than almost any team in the league. Now add in what's already here, a young defensive core that's been playing at an elite level all season, rookies who have been balling out week after week, a foundation that's already in place. All they need to do is build the offense around it. And that's exactly what John Greco laid out. He said it clearly: bolster the defense, add offensive weapons, retool the offensive line, get depth across the board. That's not some vague hope. That's an executable plan, a real strategy. And it only works if Shedeur Sanders is your quarterback. Think about what this means in practical terms. While other teams are handcuffed by massive quarterback contracts, while they're cutting good players and losing free agents because they can't afford them, the Browns could be signing elite talent. They could be drafting a franchise left tackle with 1 first-round pick and a true number 1 receiver with the other. They could be loading up on offensive line depth in rounds 2 and 3. They could be building a playoff roster while paying their starting quarterback less than a backup salary. That's not a dream. That's math. That's reality. And it's sitting right there waiting for the Browns to take it. But here's the thing. None of this matters if the organization doesn't believe in Shedeur. None of it works if they panic and draft another quarterback. The financial cheat code only activates if you trust the guy you already have. And that's where things get complicated. Because as good as the opportunity is the obstacles Shaduer has been facing, they're just as real. Now I need to address something that genuinely makes my blood boil, because every time I see someone online trashing Shedeur Sanders, calling him a bust, saying he can't play, pointing at his interceptions like they tell the whole story, I want to grab them by the shoulders and ask one simple question. Have you actually watched the tape? Have you seen what this kid is working with? Let me paint the picture for you. Shedeur Sanders is playing behind the worst offensive line in the NFL. And that's not exaggeration, that's fact. John Greco called Cam Robinson a disaster. His own words, a disaster. The guy who's supposed to protect Shadeur's blind side can't hold up against basic pass rush moves. And it's not just Robinson. The entire unit is broken. There's no push in the run game. There's no time in the pocket. Shaduer is running for his life on half his dropbacks. And who is he throwing to? Jerry Jeudy? The same Jerry Jeudy who shows up for 1 game then disappears for 3? The same guy who, according to Greco, doesn't even fight for the ball when an interception happens? Shaduer lost Jamari Thrash to injury. He's out there trying to manufacture offense with practice squad receivers and a coaching staff that might not even be here next season. And then there's the play calling. Greco broke down that second interception against the Steelers, and what he said was damning. 8-man protection, 5 offensive linemen, plus extra blockers. And only 4 Steelers rushing. You know what that means? It means there were 7 defenders in coverage and almost nowhere to throw the ball. The play was designed for an all-out blitz that never came. And when Pittsburgh dropped back instead of rushing, Shaduer was left trying to create something out of nothing. That's not bad quarterbacking. That's being set up to fail. And look, I'm not here to tell you, Shaduer has been perfect. He hasn't. He's made rookie mistakes. He's thrown some balls he wants back. But Greco said it best, he's a rookie who's going to make rookie mistakes, and as he continues to develop, those mistakes will become less frequent. That's the process. That's how it works. But here's the part that drives me crazy. Shaduer isn't throwing to Jamar Chase. He's not throwing to Puka Nacua or Justin Jefferson. He doesn't have a Travis Hunter who can go up and win any contested catch, no matter how many defenders are draped on him. He's got Jerry Jeudy on his best day, and a bunch of guys most fans have never heard of. The ceiling is obvious. Anyone who watches Shedeur operate when the offense is on schedule can see the arm talent, the poise, the accuracy. But the floor? The floor is being artificially lowered by a roster that's completely failing him. And the question I keep asking myself is this: what happens when you finally give him real weapons? What happens when the line can actually block? That's where things start to get interesting. But here's where the story starts to shift. Because for all the obstacles, for all the chaos and dysfunction surrounding this kid, there's something happening that the stat sheet doesn't capture. Something the box score won't tell you. Something that separates the guys who flame out from the guys who become franchise cornerstones. Leadership, composure, mentality. The stuff you can't measure. You heard what Shaduer said after that Steelers game. He said he felt very relaxed. He said he had no worries because he had God on his side. Now think about that for a second. This is a rookie 5th-round pick playing behind the worst offensive line in football with no weapons and a coaching staff on the hot seat, and he's out there feeling relaxed. That's not normal. That's a different kind of wiring. That's the kind of mental makeup that allows quarterbacks to thrive when everything around them is burning down. And it's not just talk. You can see it on the field. Greco specifically praised Shedeur's ability to use his legs against Buffalo. He's not just standing in the pocket waiting to get hit. He's making plays with his mobility. He's extending drives. He's keeping the offense alive when the blocking breaks down, which happens almost every snap. That kind of improvisation takes poise. It takes awareness. And it takes a belief in yourself that most rookies simply don't have yet. But here's what really gets me. Look at what's happening in that locker room. The Browns are 4-12. The season is lost. The coaches might be gone. The roster is about to get a complete facelift, and yet they're still competing. They beat the Steelers. They're still fighting every single week. Greco talked about it. He said the leadership in that locker room, guys like Joel Bitonio, guys like Myles Garrett, is the reason this team hasn't completely collapsed. But you know who else is part of that culture now? Shedeur Sanders. A rookie who's earned the respect of his teammates by showing up every week and battling through impossible circumstances. And here's the thing, Greco said that matters more than anything else. The core group of rookies who have been playing their hearts out all season, the young defenders who have been balling out despite the record they're going to be here, that's your foundation. That's your culture. That's the group of young players who are going to define what the Cleveland Browns look like for the next decade. And Shedeur Sanders is going to be here with them. That connection matters. That shared experience of fighting through a brutal season together that builds something, that creates a bond. That's the kind of foundation championship teams are built on. You can't teach that mentality, you can't draft it, you either have it or you don't. And Shedeur Sanders, he has it. Now the only question is whether the Browns are smart enough to see what's right in front of them. This is it. This is the moment. The Cleveland Browns are standing at the edge of either their greatest decision or their biggest disaster, and I'm telling you right now, the path forward has never been clearer. The blueprint is sitting right there. John Greco laid it out. The numbers make sense. The foundation is in place. All they have to do is execute. Here's exactly how this works. Pick one you draft an elite offensive tackle. Someone who can actually protect Shedeur's blind side. Someone who isn't a disaster like Cam Robinson. Pick 2, you get a dynamic receiver. A true number 1 who can win contested catches. Who shows up every single week. Who gives Shaduer that safety valve he's never had. Rounds 2 through 4, you load up. Offensive line depth. More weapons. Defensive pieces to complement that young core that's been fighting all season. You build a complete roster around your franchise quarterback who's making $900,000 a year. And Deshaun Watson? Fine. He's the backup. That's his role now. That's all he needs to be. Trust the kid. Build around him. See what happens. But here's what terrifies me. Here's what keeps me up at night as a Browns fan. The fear that Jimmy Haslam and whoever becomes the next GM will ignore everything John Greco just said. They'll ignore the financial advantage, they'll ignore the leadership, they'll ignore the fact that Shaduer has already shown he can compete in this division with absolutely nothing around him. And they'll do what they always do. They'll panic, they'll reach, they'll draft Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore because they feel like they have to take a quarterback high in the first round. Because that's what teams do, right? That's the safe move. That's what the media expects. And it would be a catastrophic mistake. A franchise-destroying mistake. John Greco said something crucial about the coaching situation. He said both or none. Either you keep Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry together, or you fire them both and start fresh. But whoever comes in, whoever is making these decisions, they need to be aligned. They need to believe in the same vision. And that vision needs to center around Shedeur Sanders. Because if there's misalignment, if the coach wants one thing and the GM wants another, the dysfunction will continue. The losing will continue. And this franchise will waste another decade. The Browns have a chance right now. Maybe the only chance they'll get for another 10 years. They have the quarterback, they have the draft capital, they have the young defensive core. They have everything they need to build something special. The billion-dollar plan is real. It's documented. John Greco confirmed it, and Shedeur Sanders is at the center of it all. Don't let them mess this up. Not again. Not this time. Because Cleveland, we deserve better. We deserve a franchise quarterback. We deserve hope, and it's sitting right there on our roster. If you believe in Shedeur Sanders, if you believe in this billion-dollar plan, smash that subscribe button right now. Let's make sure the Browns organization hears us. Let's ride.